Not have enough people to approve the minutes, but I'm going to call us to order and ask if there's any public comment on non-agenda items. Yes.
Yes. A request was made during the recent Academic Senate meeting by an adjunct faculty representative that the College Council consider adding an adjunct faculty representative to College Council.
Okay. So noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comments, non-agenda items? No? Okay, moving on. We're not going to do the minutes. Instead, we're going to go forward to information items. Hello, welcome back. It is fall 2019. Yay, we're here. So a couple of things. First, I want to apologize in advance that I will need to leave at 11:35 because I'm on a speaker's tour. So yesterday was the Pasadena Rotary. Today is the San Marino Rotary. So hopefully nobody is going to both meetings because that won't be good. So that's number one. We'll have to end early. The second is I want to officially introduce Alex Buckelheitz, who you all know already, but Alex has a new role, and his role is as a special assistant to the superintendent president. And the reason for that position is there are all kinds of things that I need to do both internally and externally, and there's only one of me to do all of that. And to have somebody like Alex who's done a lot of work in the community with our legislators and also does the communications piece, the board, and it actually came as a suggestion from the board because they were increasing the number of things they were asking me to do, especially external to the college, and recognized that I can't be in 5 places at one time. So Alex is here in that official capacity. So welcome back to the college you never left. In terms of my update, we are we're off and running our fall semester. We're down a little bit in head count. We're down a tiny bit in enrollment, but we can almost see flat from where we are. And we still have an 8-week session that will begin in a few weeks. So hope springs eternal. I'm good on that. We are actively busy working on our educational master plan. And we did a launch for the initial conversations about our facilities master plan. So this whole year is going to be about planning, but we've got a lot of pieces in place to have it be a productive planning, not a let's just sit around and continue having the same conversation. So I imagine at some point this body is going to see both of those plans, and you should have or you will have already seen them before they get here because they need to go through shared governance both internally as well as externally. In fact, Crystal came to the President's Advisory on API students on Saturday and shared the Educational Master Plan with that committee and got some feedback on that. And we have other groups that we'll be going to, and so things are pretty busy. And the facilities master plan, we had an initial meeting a few weeks ago talking with leadership, and there were some of the folks here were in that meeting, and it really was about what are the things we really need to have here on campus, what are the things that maybe we could let go of here on campus, and what are the criteria that the consultants HGA who we've re-engaged with for this process, what should they be thinking about in terms of facilities master plan going forward? So it's been busy but good. So I'll leave it at that. Academic affairs, is anybody going to give that report since Terry is
off the Hilton Head?
Off the Hilton Head?
Not today.
No? Okay. Then we'll go on to student affairs update. Cynthia's at Consultation Council.
Good.
So is anybody here?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Then, okay. Last man standing. Dr. Bush, talk to us about business and administrative services.
Well, it's a joy.
We have an adopted budget.
Yay!
The budget has been uploaded, and we have a new report available on campus called a Faisal Doddle, which you'll all learn to love. People will be able to run their own report. I'm going to also run one for the college and then be emailing it out. And it will include all of the account codes. There's about 8,000 lines, but everyone will be able to see every account of every department, and we can have conversations and know where the money is. Because we actually don't hide it or find it. It is really in this document someplace. We just move it around, so you can all see it. The next thing is in facilities. It's pretty exciting, and we'll give an update tomorrow on the closing out of Measure P, as well as some of the other projects that we're doing. We're getting ready to do the Serafian building. It should be coming out of DSA pretty soon. And our hope is to secure the necessary financing and to do the demolition of the building towards the end of spring semester, so we could then start construction. And we're looking at 18 to 24 months from when we start knocking it down till it should be opened. We've engaged with several companies to have construction management firms. Mr. Schulman's ending his tenure with the college, and we have a short list of 3 firms that can handle this size of construction. So then in technology, they have several projects they're working on, from the call center to travel vouchers, and everyone's favorite banner. I know you guys all love Banner, but we're going to have Banner 9 self-help. So it's almost sounds like a psychologist is involved, but it is an upgrade on Banner users. Besides the facility master plan, you may have noticed we have a few policies on this agenda.
Just a few.
That's almost half of what is legally required by the district to have in place. So if we're going to go through, I don't know how this slipped accreditation, but it might be a focal point that we don't have the necessary policies. Also, if we have hopes of doing a COP or going out for a GO bond, there are policies that must be in place or you cannot finance. And that law changed in 2017. So we've drafted the policies, and we're currently working on the administrative regulations. That's it.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go back up now that we have enough people in the room. That's okay. We're going to go back up, and the minutes of the meeting, the notes from June 20th that were circulated, and I know you all read them copiously. Are there any corrections that anyone has to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve them, or do we just accept them?
Approve.
We approve, okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to.
Okay, great, second?
Second.
Awesome. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
She's got that.
Okay, any opposed? Abstentions? All right, we have 2 abstentions, or 3. Jeff? Okay, so we have Jeff, Matt, Rebecca, and Mark. Okay, abstentions. And I see, this is why I have Alex as the special assistant to the president now, because he pointed out that I probably should have announced a couple of dean changes that you may or may not be aware of, and that is that with Javier's exit to my former institution to run the Dream Center there, that left a need in our dual enrollment area, and we're just getting going on a lot of things with pretty much every district that we serve, and one of Dr. Isela Osegueda's specialties was dual enrollment. So we decided and spoke to her about Isela coming over and heading up our dual enrollment as well as learning resource centers, because that's also something that she has a lot of experience in and interest in. So she's doing that, and that is a position that used to exist. That academic affairs position used to exist, so it was brought back. And then we hired on Tuesday, we did interviews, and we've named Tuk Tuk as the interim Dean of English. And so we have a little bit of shifting in the deans there. So that's my update. Okay.
Excellent. Yes.
Okay,
Good.
great. So we'll go to old items and I'll.
Okay, so BP 6300 and 6200 actually came in June. I'm sure you did nothing with them, which is fine, which is actually excellent, because Mike gave me some updated ones that I'm going to, and I don't think I put these in your packet. I think you got the old ones, but these are the new ones that I will circulate out to you, which is fiscal management and budget prep. So I'm just asking, just so you know that they were here before, that's why they're under old items, but they need to go out through shared governance. Mike, anything you'd like to say special about these?
Lady, I do.
What besides, why don't we have them already?
Yeah.
I won't get into that. I pondered that for a while, and I'm over it. Both of these are legally required. The budget preparation has been changed. The first draft you saw actually named dates, like before September 15th, the board will adopt the budget. I changed that to what the league recommends, is saying by a certain date, which I have of February, the board will be given a calendar. One of the reasons is some of you are young and you don't remember Pete Wilson and when we never had a budget. And the law actually says by September 15th, or 45 days after the state enacted budget, because they may not want to enact a budget, especially when they used to need a supermajority to implement them. I'm not anticipating a problem, but I think our policy should be flexible enough to address that issue. The main issue in California will be if a recession hits and they have to start cutting programs, and then we have that push and pull between the social programs and Prop 98, and things get delayed. So that's why I changed that, and then in the administrative regulations we'll address that, what the law says. So.
Okay. So I will send out the corrected copies to the Management Association, Academic Senate, Classified Senate, and if you put them on your agenda and you need Mike to come, please send him an invitation and he can come and speak to him.
Okay, so now we'll go on to new items, discussion and possible action. AP 3050, professional ethics of faculty.
Sure, I can do the preliminary on this. This actually went through the Academic Senate. It was vetted pretty thoroughly. The Academic Senate approved it on 12/3/2018. They just never sent it to me afterwards, so I didn't.
Oops.
Well, I guess they just didn't think about it. So they didn't know, which is fine. So we found it, and I'm bringing it forward today. I really just need the academic, you can read it, and if you have anything you'd like to comment on, but it'll then have to go back to the Academic Senate, and this really is their purview. Or Matt can answer any questions.
Any questions for Matt? Please don't ask me anything. Okay, so it's going to go back to the Senate.
Well, there's no questions. The Senate is done with
Yeah,
it.
the Senate
The Senate is done.
Done.
Yeah, if
Okay.
there aren't any changes, then the Senate doesn't need to see
Yeah,
them.
it's ready to be posted if you accept it.
So, yeah. We have to approve it.
You need to recommend it to her, to the superintendent president.
Move to recommend it to the president.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right,
Excellent.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, AP 5130, financial aid, and I see Manuel Serta here.
Yeah, so the changes really were just changes to funds that have changed, no major changes here. An example is the Board of Governors fee waiver that's now known as the California Promise Grant. The question I did have, I don't know, Crystal, is I thought we had also updated our board policy, and I didn't see it in the packet.
Yeah, I don't have that up this time, Manny. I put this one through
Okay,
first,
fair
but
enough.
I'll find that one.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Any questions for Manuel?
I have a couple of things. Under item 3, where 3A, where it talks about student eligibility, the first item says being enrolled as a regular student, but regular student isn't defined in the document, so I'm not sure what is meant by regular student.
Yeah, and I saw that, I don't know if there's a template on this, Crystal, because I noticed it's very common around other colleges that use this, but it's really, it's credit students. So I don't know if.
And not special admit. I think that's why it's regular, not special admit.
Right, it's a regular student, but really a better definition would be credit students enrolled in an eligible program. I don't know.
So maybe that could be clarified? I mean, if there's an understanding of what that means, then that's fine. I didn't know what it meant when I read it.
Is that
That's a little bit vague
CCSA
on
language?
And I have, there are actually a few more.
I don't know. He sent it to me.
If under 4, there's a wonky paragraph.
Wonky.
Yeah, so 4, the third sentence starts, the requirement for good academic standing are, and then there's a colon, and then it says the district measures each student's satisfactory progress at the end of each academic term, and then that's followed by another colon statement, so like maybe some editing. And then in item 3 there, it talks about 150% of the program length. 3 years full-time equivalency, I get that there's a 2-year length but I think on average students take 6 years. So I don't know if the 150% being 3 years.
Well, that's a
reflects reality.
federal policy
It's
for
federal.
for the certificates of achievement, non-degree programs, it's 150% of that particular rate.
If it's a federal policy, then I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Under 5E, why are the emergency loans stricken?
We don't have it, and this is something we might have to bring to the table. We, in financial aid, we don't have an emergency loan process right now.
But then that's a good reason to strike it.
But we have that through the foundation.
There's other programs,
Yeah.
but not specifically for financial aid.
I think probably I can live with the rest of it.
Yeah, and I understand that when I looked at it, some of the terms are vague, but when I did see a lot of other colleges just kind of compare, at least they use a similar template as well.
I know we plagiarize.
Absolutely.
We share.
So we can make the edit corrections, and Manuel, if you can give me a definition of regular students, I'll put
Okay.
that in here, and then we'll send it out to you.
Yeah, I'll look into it and modify it.
Is that good?
It is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on
Yep.
to BP 3720, is that right?
There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are.
Computer and network use.
You're on.
So this is me. Hi, both the BP 3720 and AP just have revisions to, we consistently want to look at the policies regarding computer and network use and just update them as those things change and terminology changes. So most of the recommended changes are just pulling in additional wording that we see from the league and clarifying new points about who the district, computers and network, what those things contain, who has the rights to them, and that the superintendent president shall establish procedures. That's kind of the major change of the BP, which is adding some additional language there. The AP just has minor changes based on some newer policies that we're implementing, regarding how to classify data, which is one of the policies that we're reviewing as well. Some general language around, acceptable use of those systems, and changing terminology like adding superintendent president, new titles and things that are more formal. So there aren't really fundamental content changes here other than revisions to how we speak about things.
Comments?
Questions for Candace?
Questions?
I'll go after anybody who has anything.
What are the changes to the acceptable use?
In this BP,
Sensitive, personally identifiable information and confidential information must be kept secured at all times.
yes, and refrain from using college logos without authorization to do so.
That latter one was actually one of my questions. What is that process like? So if I'm just thinking kind of like on a day-to-day thing, if I want to write a test and include the college's logo on my test for some strange reason, I would need to get authorization?
It's as long as you're taking them from the branding guidelines site, which is published on the Pasadena site, you're fine.
So that's
Those are
articulated
already
by that.
authorized to go out. It's
Okay.
things like, maybe you change the colors of the logo
Yeah.
because you prefer green.
Oh,
rather
okay,
than-
I understand
Those
that.
sorts of things, but as long as you're pulling from the branding visual, guide for appropriate use, you're fine.
Okay, good enough for me. But under 3, acceptable use in A, this isn't a change, but it's something I noticed. There's a prohibition against hacking, cracking, and other similar activities, which I think in general is a good thing. But I do notice that in our college catalog, there's a CIS certificate that includes certifications such as the Council of Certified Ethical Hacker. My point is that I think that there are some courses on campus where students have to engage in hacking to learn about cybersecurity.
But they do that in a closed-off network behind a firewall, so that's different.
And against appropriate systems.
And against an appropriate system with a certified professional in the room. It's not a
So that's not in conflict with this statement?
That's not in conflict because one is to teach people about in order to be really good at detecting and managing hacking, you have to be good at it yourself.
Sure, yeah.
So
As
so
long as
it's not in conflict.
If we don't have a
Yeah.
practice that's in conflict with the API.
It is not in conflict. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other?
So Candace has a package of them on today. We'll go on to the next one. But just so we know, when you bring them forward to your committees, if you would just let Candace know, I'm sure she'd love to go and talk about them.
Sure.
She's excited.
Okay. So
22.
yep. Yeah. 3722 data classification standards.
Did we do 21?
Oh, I'm sorry. 21. Pardon me.
Sorry, my bad. That's me. It's not you.
Yeah.
You're fine.
AP 3721.
Okay.
Electronic communication use, passwords, and retention.
So this is a brand new procedure for us regarding electronic communication, acceptable use, passwords, and retention. A lot of this is being driven out of some legislation that's happening. AB 1184 is going through, and most IT technical professionals are talking about it, and we need to adhere to what that legislation is, which is a retention policy of 24 months. There are legal risks, just like with other documents that we have on campus, whether they be purchase orders or financial information. We have established retention policies for those physical assets. We also need a retention policy for email because all of that information is discoverable. And so this aligns with that new legislation that is coming, as well as provide some greater protections for the institution. Any questions?
Matt wants to ask something.
Of course.
I can see it it on his
Uh-huh.
face.
How did I spend my Wednesday evening?
Yeah.
Good for you.
In this second paragraph, it's visible, there are 2 references to university.
Oh, I
Probably
didn't
could
catch him.
change that to college. I think that's evidence of what we call it sharing.
Where does it say?
At the end of the second line.
Oh, I
in
see
the
it.
Middle
Yeah,
of the
okay,
second
yeah.
to last line.
I got it. I'm sorry, I thought I caught them all, but I'll fix that.
Okay, did you have anything else, Matt?
No.
Okay,
haven't seen that.
great. Rebecca?
So I have a question about this. If we use our personal phones related to work for things that are subpoenable, like conduct, I get stuff on my personal phone. What is that relationship with this policy and the connection to my phone and my use in relationship to the college and having purview over that?
So the bottom line is if you have downloaded the college's email onto your personal phone is discoverable.
Now, it's only email,
No, and texting.
but if the texting is mine, I mean, I pay for it, it's mine, but I'm particularly concerned
Yeah.
about it because I get stuff about Title IX complaints, I get student conduct stuff, text to me from faculty, staff, other administrators, and that's always a concern for me is what is that relationship between,
Right.
I mean, regular stuff, between colleagues or whatever, that's one thing, but when it's stuff that I know, for me particularly, and I also know CPART folks have the same concern, and something happens and we're communicating because something has to be done.
Right.
What is that relationship between our personal device, our personal text, and the college's purview over that?
I don't have an answer to that, but I do think is that this, I know we've talked about it for a number of years, is I know some folks have a college phone, and there's some areas or some specific folks that with Title IX that might benefit from having a college, again, have a separate phone so that, especially because I know I've been one of those managers that actually has contacted Rebecca on her side with texting as far as Title IX issues, so it is an ongoing thing, and if that's going to be one of her work responsibilities that doesn't again happen in the hours of 9 to 5, that there's
Right.
going to be something that the college needs to look into supporting, so that again it's not eating up those things, and that way. But again, as a college, we also understand that when we communicate with Rebecca about stuff like that, it's on this number and not that number.
Because I would not want the college to have purview of my personal
Right.
Exactly,
text.
and that's why-
Right now, it's inseparable.
Right.
I
Exactly.
think the way
So,
the
but
college
what is-
previously dealt with that would be that most of the managers actually receive a stipend. Many managers receive a stipend.
What? Here?
Used to be.
Currently? See?
It-
I'm not
We'll
see
talk
that.
on that
I'm
one.
seeing
that
a lot of
look?
surprised
Yeah.
looks around the room, so
Yeah.
that's
People.
something that Dr. Bush might want to follow up on. I'm real curious about that.
But
Well,
that doesn't,
No, I think but
but
I
that still doesn't attend to,
This
Well,
issue.
I think the reason why I'm sorry I mentioned that was to be that then that phone you are being compensated.
oh, then I buy another personal phone.
Right.
But if you're receiving a stipend.
Or buy
Yeah.
a phone that I use just for that.
Can I just say you weren't getting
Yeah.
enough
Really
of
keep
the
it
stipend?
separate because
I mean, that's,
they could get it exempt.
which is my concern.
Which is the other
I don't want them
reason
to
for
read
the-
my
and-
love notes to my husband.
Well,
I
and I
don't
just
know,
want
I
to
love
point
those.
out that's the other reason for the email retention
Right.
policy, because the bottom line is there are lots of people out there, and I have been guilty of this myself, so I'm just going to throw it out there, where you've worked someplace a long time. Oh yeah, I think we did that 7 years ago. You go to your email and up pops that email. That's great. But if you don't have a retention policy, then every single one of your emails is subject to a Public Records Act request. If you have a retention policy, the Public Records Act request is, because the emails will not exist after 2 years, the only thing it is 2 years. Because the liability is huge
Yeah.
otherwise.
So Jeff highlighted something and I'm gonna follow up. One of the, I'm not sure it's further down, but on number, what is it? 4.3.
Yeah.
It says not electronic transmitted information classified as confidential as defined in AP 3726. I'm looking at the board policies.
Actually, that's
APs.
going to be, sorry, that's going to be AP 3722, data
20.
classification standards.
Okay, so that's one that's yet to be.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yep,
there you
that's
go.
the next one.
That-
So I'm gonna change that and it's AP. We had a lot more and I didn't catch all the numbers. I condensed them for you. So it's gonna be 3722 data classification standards.
We don't, do we have that
The
one?
next one.
It's coming up next.
It's coming up.
So you're gonna.
It's a new
You
one.
get head start on that.
Other comments about this policy? Or AP?
We'll be looking at it later, right? Obviously, it's just the first read.
So,
We're gonna start on that one right now.
PIA for the protected information.
So we're good on 21. He's looking at 22.
I have one
Oh,
Yes.
Is there anything in these policies that addresses what you should do if you are contacted by like legal firms telling you we're coming after this?
Oh, yeah, that's, if you get any kind of notification like that,
Right. Don't erase anything, don't do anything.
don't do anything and
But
let
is
us
there anything
know.
in any of the policies that address that idea? I would think
There
we-
actually is one and it's covered in a public records request. And I don't know the exact one, Mark, but I'll get it to you because all of those go through the president's office and then get funded out to whoever needs to do it.
Right, because sometimes it's something that would go to HR, sometimes it's something that would go to business services. You know, it just depends on what the topic is, where it would get funneled to. But anything like that, you know, like a subpoena coming in or anything, would go to my office first.
Or
And
what
then-
else? I mean, I know there's more on the legal ground, but it's also been the practice as far as getting news agencies that are coming forth. Is that same thing goes to the president's office first before any form of actual
Yes.
reply comes out?
Yes,
That's what I mean.
Alex.
I mean, I know I'm saying, but I'm going like that.
Yeah, Alex.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
I've got a question on the separated employees piece. It says prior to separation, the department head is responsible for ensuring any messages, records, and information with lasting value in the separating employee's possession are properly transferred to the department's control. How does that work for faculty that separate? Because their department heads would be their dean. We don't have access to their emails to transfer them into district control.
So the thought process is that when you receive when a supervisor or department head receives notification that an employee is going to be separating, to work with the employee to forward whatever email is sort of like departmental use things that you know that maybe they know something about, because those messages will be, per the new policy, deleted, or the account will be disposed of 90 days after the separation. So it's like on the 91st day, it would be difficult for you to say, oh, I need this email from, I know that they were working on this particular grant. Can you forward me the messages? So it's just trying to say, be thoughtful as your employees are separating, of working with them and transferring whatever you feel like needs to be transferred to the department.
So two questions there then. One, if the separation is non-voluntary, they may not be cooperative in terms of
If it's
providing.
voluntary, then you're not going.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally fine, we
Either
can
way.
put anything
Either
on
way.
a litigation hold.
Okay, so that was
if
my
there
second
a-
question then was-
If there was a non-cooperating, all you do is put through the request to say, I'd like to request a litigation hold.
Because the
which
litigation
then we-
usually doesn't happen till well after 90 days. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we wouldn't dispose of the counts, but we would need to know that.
Got it. Okay.
But hopefully there'd be conversation about, you know, I've been in situations where somebody's been at a college for a long time and nobody who currently works there knows that that's the person who once a year pushes the button on this renewal of something or that something, you know, informing another agency about something. And it's only when they leave that and you're suddenly out of compliance. So it's trying to, I think the AP is bringing that to light to try to get folks to be mindful of these are the kinds of questions we need to ask as people leave, especially if they're long-term employees, because they may be doing things that are invisible to other people. Okay.
Ready for the next one?
Okay, ready? That's 3722.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, data classification standards.
So Tina, this is the reference of the one before, and the goal of this procedure is just to make sure that we have clarity around how data is going to be classified, which it's going to be classified into 3 categories: public, internal, or confidential. And there are definitions around each of those, and that we have some level of, based on the category, how we're transferring and we're sharing data if that needs to happen, that there are clear guidelines about how to do that securely. One of the most important aspects of the new procedure is just assigning a data custodian for the assets, so that it's very clear what the data custodian's responsibility is. This is, I mean, often I think because the data exists in systems that ITS maintains, we are not the data custodian. We are not the appropriate person or place or entity to ask for or request data from. It's the data custodian. We are just the facilitators of it. So it's just trying to get some clarity around that with a little flow chart.
Cool.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, in both internal and confidential, there are references to proprietary information. Can you just describe what kind of information at the college would be proprietary?
Things that are really specific about PCC that might only have been generated here and that are technically then sort of like intellectual assets of the college. Like, for example, let me give an example of that. If we had a programmer who built this great program thing and then they left and went somewhere else, they need to rebuild that somewhere else. They can't just take that or the data that gets produced from those items.
Okay, thank you.
That would be proprietary.
Okay.
Would that be courses that faculty design, like online courses?
Like model courses?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could fall under that. Yeah, because you designed it, you pulled all the resources together in a particular way, and so you're not compelled, if you stop teaching here, you're not compelled to hand that course over to someone else. Right. All right. Okay.
Remote access.
Remote access, AP 3723.
So this just gives some procedures around how staff and faculty will access any of our information systems from remote locations outside of the Pasadena City College network, and the ways that we monitor that and check for security in terms of like multi-factor for folks who are needing to use VPN to do that, as well as a procedure for, again, someone couldn't just ask ITS, I need to work from home, give me access. That needs to be vetted through the departmental area, and we receive approval for that, and that will be reviewed on an annual basis. Just share data about how you're going to connect if you're doing remotely and the process to request that.
Do we define which systems are governed by remote access?
We can.
I'm just curious because like
A great example
logging
is
into
that
logging into web-based Outlook is not
It's
considered
not
remote
remote
access,
access.
but that
No.
probably should be
Should like
clarified.
Banner,
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
So
Like,
Canvas would be.
Right.
Canvas
Right.
would not be-
Anything that you're doing web.
Because this
and
whole
not
like you can't
directly.
access it from a public computer is
Right. Aside from web-based.
that would be
panel.
problematic.
We can clarify that. That's a good suggestion.
Do you want to define that before I send it out?
Yes, I
Okay.
can do that.
In point 2,
Point two.
Under,
right here, it says 2 primary approved connection methods are used. Are the 2 listed right there after the colon? Because I don't see 2. I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
Just one.
is SSL VPN client supplied by PACCDITS, is that one connection method and there's another one that is not here? Or was
Is
it
that a
not the
single sign or
point to
login
include
and
both
then-
of the methods of connection?
We do have other VPN clients, so it's just, you're talking about point two, it says, connection methods are used to gain access to PCC systems as an SSL VPN client supported by Pasadena. We didn't want to name all of those so that if we change those, but yes.
Just when it says 2 primary approved connection methods are used, I expect to see a list of
See
2.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Okay,
If you have a call and you don't want to list it, then just put a period.
Yeah, just a period and then end the sentence.
good catch. Thank
So you want, what do you want me to do, Candace?
I think it's actually one. That's his point, it's one primary,
Oh, that fixes everything.
So one,
because we only have a VPN client that we supply.
Clean up your grammar too.
We can make that edit, thanks,
Thank you.
good catch.
Is used, method is used.
thank you. Good,
Yeah.
Because that's FERPA protected information, right? So
method.
So we're looking at the transmissions over networks. I was looking at it differently, but Jeff was also looking at it. So again, a PC confidential data. So I guess that goes back to replying what confidential means. So all transmissions must use, again, it must be sent only in encrypted form. For instance, if we're working with other agencies or other folks on campus who talk about student data, how exactly would that be sent encryptedly?
So the data would need to be encrypted before it's sent. There are multiple ways to accomplish that, which we would provide guidance on. So most of the areas that are sharing personally identified information out to external entities, we have methods by which they're encrypting and sending that data. Sometimes they do that through portals that other companies or federal entities might offer for us to encrypt and then upload. Some of that might be sent via like SFTP to another, from a server here to another server there. So it just depends on what's required. I think this is also getting at, what we're trying to get at is you shouldn't be attaching Excel spreadsheets that contain a lot of social security numbers in email and just sending that. That data is in the clear and can be intercepted, and so we are putting some tools on our email system that would alert somebody to personal identifiable information and then warn them that they're doing that so that they either know to reach out to ATS to help encrypt that and send.
But as you mentioned, that's more we're sending it externally. If we're doing it internally, does that still need to?
Still does.
So like when I get
Because it could be
from
intercepted
certain
either way,
offices.
right?
Intercept, what if your email got hacked? Let's just say your password was exposed.
By students in
and you
ethical
shared
hacking.
that-
All comes together. Good callback.
They'd be able to get into your email and find this unencrypted
Very real
points
thing.
of
Excel spreadsheet.
I know.
Interesting.
So we're gonna be planning, to support many of these policies, we're gonna be planning a lot of training and
confidential
reach out
includes
moments for
FERPA
those.
protected information, so.
Okay.
Anything
Other
else?
comments on that? All right, so the next step for these policies, or for these APs,
I will make the suggested corrections and edits that you gave me today, and I will send them out to each of the representative groups for you to move them through.
great.
With a little luck, I'll do that.
All right, Candace, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Jesse, employee travel.
Alright, so this policy is to everyone is a newer policy. So it stemmed from when Jonas and I were having a conversation of how to streamline our meal reimbursement process. Can we legally do without the receipts? Is there a way that we can streamline, help everybody's life? It'll be a little bit easier, do without the receipt, but at the same time be legal back. So then we look into it and then figure out that there is a per diem method that we could use. So coming from the per diem method, and then we started looking at other travel policies, and we realized that we really don't have a travel policy.
Oops.
So a lot of it is by practice, by what we did for years and years, and then some of them are in little bits and pieces at different BPs and APs. So this new AP, we condense everything from the different little places and then put it at one place. So the goal is to have one standard policy that is streamlined, that's easy to use, and is clear to everyone, and is also something that we could follow and for our administrative staff to streamline this travel process.
That's the weirdest
Like,
of it.
big picture spiel and questions.
Yeah.
I have a question about this employee travel policy. It says that we can't travel to places with laws discriminating, but if you're traveling under not PCC, but for professional business or a national grant, then are you not allowed to travel?
No, because it says
Even-
here,
yeah.
exceptions to this restriction shall also be followed, and federal grant money would be one of those.
Yes. What she said.
Do we need to clarify though, because it says the AP does not apply to employees or trustees traveling with students for approved activities, and that does apply there.
Where
It's at the very top of page 2.
Are
It
you,
says,
are you on
You
the
move on, yeah,
AP?
sorry, we're on the
Oh,
AP,
okay.
sorry.
Because the BP is nice
Okay.
and short.
Yeah.
All right. Jesse, we talked about this for some reason. Remember this, the student travel?
Yes, the student travel, we have another BP for student travel, it's BP 4400, and that one has to do with everything that relates to taking the student onto a trip, as far as an instructional trip or maybe say going to Sacramento to advocate for our college. So those two are, the purpose of it is distinctly different. So the methodology that they should follow is rather different. So we are in the process of clarifying that piece of the BP and the associated AP as well. So, as far as this AP 7,000 piece, this new one that we're bringing forward today, and that applies to our employees for the district, whether classified or faculty, and also trustees, and also any students that are traveling on behalf of the district, let's say, to advocate for us.
But I think the question is, the way that sentence reads, it says that any sort of prohibition about traveling to those states is overridden if students are involved. So I'm not understanding.
Well, this AP, the BP
Okay.
always applies.
Okay.
So this is just the AP. And so there's going to be different language in the other one. We can clarify it.
Yeah, we need to clarify that, because on the one hand, there's like a philosophical decision here that we are not going to allow travel to the 8 states that have been identified for having discrimination laws. But then we have a sentence here that says, but if a student's going, the rule doesn't apply.
I think when we were discussing this, it wasn't so much about the states. It was about what they were doing and how it was getting funded, because it's a different process for funding field trips that are connected to a class.
Okay.
So is that prohibition present in the other AP that you just referred to regarding student travel?
It's not.
Yet.
Not
Yet. Okay, but if we add it to that, then it's covered, and then that sentence makes more sense.
Yes, and the
Okay.
reason we had to do that is because of this thing.
Yeah.
When you have course activities like geology that takes field trips, that's an entirely separate approval process.
Sure.
Right.
So there's a separate BP and AP for that,
Yeah.
and we haven't gotten to that one yet.
The prohibition is everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll include it in that one. when we get there.
Yeah, and
Are you good with Jesse's good?
I had a question on student travel, because I've always felt it's really strange when I'm taking students who've done research with me to present posters. It's not really a field trip. It's really a different entity. So I don't know if we can clarify that maybe in the next document. 'Cause it shouldn't necessarily be treated the same way.
Can we clarify it in 4300 and refer you to this one, because they technically would be under this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
But
should
we
be
could just
clarified
clarify
that way.
it in 4300 that they need, if it's that sort of an activity, they need to refer to 7420. Is that good?
Okay.
You good with
In this sentence, should
Okay.
be AP 43.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. I'm just wondering where this lives. First of all, is it a board bylaw or a board policy? Because it says bylaw here, then it has policy, and it says chapter 6, but it's the 7,000. Would that be chapter 7?
We're gonna move them all around
Okay.
to the right chapter, because they had different numbering,
Uh-huh.
because of some of them were a board bylaw, because the board bylaws are all in chapter 2, because that's what the
Uh-huh.
board wants. And so it was under that one and we needed to move it out, so we'll move it all under the right chapters with the right numbers.
Okay.
Will it no longer be a bylaw then?
No, only chapter 2 has bylaws.
Okay.
And that was a decision the board made.
That was a decision the board
Specifically.
made. Yes.
Huh.
There's other
Interesting.
things, yeah. Well, they never used to have APs associated with their bylaws either until 2 years ago they changed their mind. And a lot, and said they would have APs attached to their bylaws. I can't explain these things. That's why their bylaws were so huge. Because all of basically the administrative
Was
procedures.
buried in the bylaw.
Right,
Okay.
and I don't know why they didn't want it, and they didn't want administrative procedures, and then they changed their minds, and they voted, and they said, okay, we'll have administrative procedures. So now as we're going through them, I'm taking out in the bylaw, which should be in an administrative procedure, and you'll see those coming through in the bylaws I'm bringing forward for them.
Well, that's clear as mud. Awesome.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, Jeff.
I've got a question on 9, advanced payments. There's a section in there about cash advances, and then when you return, you have to provide all this, and it says, it is the supervisor's responsibility to review and ensure accurate and timely reconciliation of the cash advance and associated expense report, and then if it doesn't, the supervisor has to
Okay.
Pay for it.
may choose to deny all or any portion. So when faculty are traveling on things like academic senate, professional development funds, the supervisor never is involved in any of the reimbursement. So
They are now.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Am I now responsible for monitoring my faculty
up
when
there with
they
the computer
use
stuff, Jeff.
Senate funds?
It is key in that part where it says may choose to deny all or any portion of the expense submitted and request the cash advance.
Because that's not my purview to deny academic senate funds.
Yes, academic senate is still, well, the academic senate can force an employee to pay back because they don't really have that supervisory role. Their role is just to approve the usage of that fund for that individual. So it would be a conversation between the professional development office, but they're only the budget manager. So the individual themselves and then the supervisor.
And in G, you have budget manager, so maybe it's just about bringing that same language up to F.
Is that what, so I think what we're suggesting is for F, instead of saying it is the supervisor's responsibility, could we say it's the budget manager's responsibility? So whatever funds that money is being spent out of, that budget manager has to review it?
The only challenge with that, just as you're thinking about it, lots of different people get hit up for money. And so like an allocation can split between 5 separate accounts, which may have no understanding of if the employee actually traveled or not. I think the intention was in the pre-approval and the approval of the funds itself, because they are the budget manager of those funds, that's where that first approval goes. And the reconciliation portion of that is really with the supervisor of record to verify that the person actually went to the event that they said, because they went to you and said, hey, this is a part of my professional development. The funding piece is really secondary. The obligation of whether or not the employee traveled and went and served whatever need is really at the departmental level. The budget manager is not going to know whether or not.
But that's not really what this says. This says if the expenditures are not properly substantiated or unspent monies are not returned, then the supervisor may deny. And like, I have no purview whatsoever over the funds that my faculty are using to travel for professional development. I have zero, because we don't have a professional development fund in our division. So all that goes through either Jason's office or it goes through the Senate office. Or it may go through equity. I mean, but it's always going through a different supervisor. And so if suddenly I now have the responsibility to determine whether or not my faculty's expenses were legitimate, that's going to create some problems between me and whoever that budget manager is.
But that only applies to cash advances, right? So we only talk about.
This is the section we're talking about.
Who can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can I-
Yeah.
If you give a question, I'm gonna ask.
Sure, absolutely.
So again, regardless of funding piece, how do you verify that do you ever verify that your faculty ever went to where they said that they were going?
No,
Okay.
that's sort of on the person who's paying for it. I have to sign off in advance. They're supposed to let me know if they're going to miss like for Senate funds, there's a space on there for the division dean to sign if the faculty are going to be missing classes or office hours, and that's
Correct.
it.
So I think the purpose is, because the person who's given the money also isn't in a position to say whether or not the person traveled and did what they did. Because they, like, for example, let's just say, Jeff, somebody wanted to use one of my accounts because maybe they were going to a class on C++.
Hacking,
And somehow
hacking,
they
hacking.
asked me for, I have no understanding, that person doesn't report to me. I may have funds to support them, but I will never see that person, I will never talk to that person doesn't come to a divisional department meeting. I don't even know what that person is using, the knowledge in the class, I have no purview. So it's trying to separate sort of authority around what an employee is doing versus the funding aspect. That's the intention. If that's not clear, maybe we could figure out a way to.
I don't think it is clear, especially because it's talking about if the expenses are determined to be inappropriate, right? And that's not, again, it's not my purview to determine if the employee is using someone else's budget in an appropriate manner.
All this language.
It's not a question of whether or not the travel occurred. It says if the expenses are deemed to be inappropriate or excessive, or they don't reconcile the advance within 5 days of return, right? That's not my purview. That's the budget manager's purview.
So you're saying.
We don't have anything in here about like whether or not we can verify that they went. But I would presume if they're bringing back hotel receipts and a conference receipt and those kinds of things, they're going to.
I think the bigger problem is that there are instances where people get an advance and they don't bring back.
Well, actually,
Right.
this
The
says,
receipt.
it's specifically talking about cash advances.
Right.
So
But it's not my
So-
account, so I don't know how I would be responsible for determining.
I guess you have to total receipts and you.
That wouldn't be the dean's responsibility or whomever. I think the wording as Crystal recommended is the best act, which is the budget manager. For instance, if I've personally been on this side of the house where we with some of our grant funds we support faculty from traveling, and when they come back, they do show me receipts, and I am the one that verifies because I'm the one that funded that travel. So and there have been instances where I'm like, yeah, we can't pay for X, Y, and Z. And not only that, like the good thing is that we have a great fiscal office where Sherry's on it. So like, yeah, no, this isn't covered. And so I get that back and I tell Veronica, sorry, this isn't gonna, these $5, whatever he's been, is not coming back.
break the
No, not that
rules.
shit. I just happen to be looking that way. So just stuff like that. But I think the accurate wording should be budget manager and not the supervisor.
Go ahead.
Okay.
And I'm just concerned about, more than anything, I'm concerned about being responsible, not just for other people's budgets, but like the Senate, which I should not
Just
have
timing.
Yeah.
any influence over their budget.
Take that phone this time.
Oh. And then as far as, in addition to that advanced part, there was one portion where it's talking about the lodging.
Which
There's
letter are you on?
still 9 on advance payments. There's prepayment is allowed for travel, as you get normally the flight, lodging, and registration fees. There's no indication as far as how long the lodging is. I'm very happy with that, or is it still just the one night?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not following.
9A.
9A,
Sorry, lodging here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
5A?
I'm not sure.
9A.
No, 9A.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, just
Being able to prepay
Here?
for more than one night,
Okay.
is that what
Right.
you're asking?
So are you saying that it used to be
What's
we
the
only
problem?
prepaid one
no.
night?
I'm saying I'm very happy to see it this way because this suggests that the college will
Leave it.
exactly.
Prepay more
Yes.
nights? See, I don't know why you bring it to our attention.
Yeah.
If you like it,
Right.
just be quiet.
I just want to make sure.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't hear
No
anything else.
positive things here.
Usually, hotels will have their own policy as far as how many nights that they're able to receive a prepay.
Mm.
So as far as
As
however
long as
many
the
night
hotel
that
gets
the
it.
hotel allows a prepay.
Gotcha.
But the prepay always goes to the
Always goes to the vendor
Yes.
directly.
unless the hotel doesn't give a check.
So I guess, Jeff, I have a question, so help me understand. So right now, for the funds that are used by professional development to, like, let's say the academic senate, the classified senate, so who's ultimately responsible as far as if they receive it in advance, who's responsible making sure that the individual get the money back?
I can answer that part. Again, that's why I say the budget manager is accurate, because really, if it's professional development, that'd be Jason. He's the one that's actually has the authority over the professional development funds. So he'd be the one to sign off, allowing, that the PD is going to pay for it. And also when the expense report comes, Jeff doesn't sign that at all because they didn't use any of his funds. It would be the PD manager, or if, again, Veronica traveled on the Title III, it would be myself or Brock signing off on the expense report because we're the ones that paid for it. Which is why, again, goes back to Chris, the budget manager is a more accurate definition of who's responsible as opposed to the supervisor.
And you're also the one to verify whether they submitted all the right
Yep.
receipts and whether
Because
they
again,
went as many days.
when it comes
as they
back,
were.
when it comes down to it, it goes back to what I was saying. Fiscal services, they will contact whoever the budget manager is, not who was the dean that approved the travel. Because all they did are like, yeah, okay, they can go, but they're going on academic senate's dime. They'll be, contacting Judy like, hey, this person traveled this was an error. They submitted paperwork. So it would always be the actual budget manager, not the supervisor.
May have no idea what it is.
No, they're just authorized again, like, fine, you're leaving, I'll get a sub.
Yeah, especially because if they're going to miss, we have to record what kind of absence it is. And so if they're traveling, for example, to a state academic senate event like a curriculum institute, we would log that as college business and not charge their leave balances. But that's the only reason that we would ever know that. Now, I would presume, like Candace, you're concerned, if they don't go, then whoever the budget manager, I would expect Jason to call me and be like, hey, did you know so-and-so didn't go to this conference? Because if we got them a sub and we paid for that day, I would want to know, because we've essentially double paid now for someone to not attend a conference. But that's I think an issue between the academic dean and the budget manager to say, did you know the person never went to this conference that you approved?
Yeah, the only thing is, I don't know how Jason would know whether or not the person went.
And it would go back to the expense receipts.
Well, whoever the budget manager is, like whoever, when they turn in the funding and that kind of stuff.
Sure, any budget manager, again, if I give funds, I'm not sure how I would know whether or not the person went.
I'm not sure how anybody knows. I mean, you can.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like if I prepaid for a flight, a hotel, and registration, and then didn't go, I have receipts for everything. We're just kind of, at some point, we're taking people at their word. We're trusting professional ethics to do a callback to a prior AP.
And even if you do go, it doesn't mean you went to the conference, man. You can go to New York City and say I'm at a conference and do whatever the hell you want. There's no way you can police that.
Wow. Just went there, didn't you?
I'm glad you picked New York and not like Sacramento, because there's really nothing else to do there. There's nothing to do but go to the conference in Sacramento.
But on the academic side, in order for them to say that they're gonna go, they fill out all this elaborate information about how they're gonna use it in instruction before the funds.
Not necessarily.
Are even approved. If they're academic senate.
If it's Senate, yeah.
Yeah.
But then when they come back, I would think that they would verify with professional development. Here are my receipts.
What's that?
We just gotta, you guys are raising a wonderful point in that, we just have to think through that. I just don't know who, for employees, when my staff travel and they come back, it's easy for us to verify, we know that they're out of the office. Maybe the faculty piece is a little bit more, complicated. We just may need to.
Maybe a conversation with Jason to find out like what their process is over there and see if.
She did. We had many conversations. Yeah. We sat down.
Well, I think it's Jason's
Well, then I agree.
and Jason should be coming up with a policy that he can move it.
He did.
This is
That's what you're looking at.
So he wanted the supervisor to verify.
Well, this is it to say that.
He's been actively involved in
that?
it.
We sat down for two whole days, going through word for word of all this policy.
But I
Jason
do think that it's a problem for you or somebody who has no idea where the money is coming from to do the pre-approval. I think it does have to be a budget manager.
I agree.
The
Where-
pre-approval
Or even the
does
post
go
budget
through.
manager.
And of course, again, when it goes back to, I'm not sure who signed off on the expense reports, but the dean has literally no signature on that whatsoever. It's whoever authorized the travel that they're going to pay for it. That's who's also signing off on the expense.
At the
They're
end too.
at the end of it. So again, that's the one that needs to be responsible, which is the budget manager.
But if we have, like Candace said, in a scenario where we have multiple funding sources,
Budget managers.
and so if you were expecting the budget manager to hold that employee responsible of turning in all their receipts to different places.
Absolutely. If they don't, yes.
And then if that employee did not go to as many days or went more days as they were planning to, we're also expecting the budget manager to somehow know about that.
Yes. Well, again, whoever's authorizing the travel, they're literally have to sign off beforehand. Like, all right, this is what the person said they're going to travel. They're going to travel an extra day. Again, we have our travel forms. They said like the conference is this day. Again, I'm going to Hakusun, October 5th through the 7th. We're traveling on the 4th because I don't want to start, traveling to that store in the morning. That is an additional travel day. So that's being authorized by everybody traveling to that. But is somebody going to go on the 3rd? Somebody going to stay for the next
I'm gonna
day?
have to stop this because we got 20 minutes left and Mike has a whole package of BPs that we have to get through before noon, and I want to be respectful of your time. So Jesse, we have two options here. We can take your thoughts into consideration and she can rework this and we'll bring it back next month. Or we can take your thoughts into consideration and send it out to you after we've made adjustments.
So we could do that.
Okay, which way would you like it?
Honestly, that's the only part. I think it shouldn't be supervisor, it should be budget manager.
Okay, so how about I communicate with Jason's office and then we try to reword this and then send it out to everyone.
I have some questions too. I mean, I can send them to you or meet with you privately about the supervising sponsoring organizations, which is the last piece of it when it's sponsored travel.
Sure. Okay, good, thank you. And so Mike, you're on, you have a package, I'm just gonna read the numbers off. There's 6250 budget management, 6307 debt insurance management, 6340 bids and contracts, 6450 wireless or cellular telephone use, 6500 property management, 6520 security for district property, 6550 disposal of property, 6600 capital construction, 6700 civic center and other facilities use, and 6740 citizens oversight. Go ahead.
Any questions? Or you want to go through one at a time, however?
That's normally how we do. One at a time.
Okay.
So we will start with 6250.
Budget management. This is legally required. It's also, this is based off of the league. We put, the most controversial part of this is the percentage of reserves.
That's what I have.
That's what Jeff is mentioned as well.
That's what we're currently at. And there are folks that feel it should be higher. There's folks that feel it should be less.
Oh, that's probably right.
The reason I like it, it's 2 months of payroll. So we have 2 months of payroll covered. In the event our friends in Sacramento do not pass the budget, we have 2 months of payroll.
Would it be prudent after the 18% to put a parenthetical that says this is equivalent to 2 months of payroll to kind of motivate the 18%?
Yeah, I was going to put that in an AP because our payroll fluctuates.
Okay.
And depending on, right now we're about 87% of the budget's payroll related expenses. Sometimes that'd be less, sometimes it'd be more. So that's why I wanted the flexibility in an AP, which wouldn't go through the whole board process. I know the board is going to have input on this. We have board members who feel it should be higher, and we have board members that feel extra reserves should go to student improvement. So that is the controversial thing, but this is also one of the linchpin policies for our credit rating, that we have a policy in place. So
Historically, has it usually been around this figure? Is it going to become a burdensome figure down the road?
I don't believe so. There was a year about 5 years ago where we dropped from a 23, 28 million range down to 14, which makes me nervous. That's only 1 month of payroll. So it has been increasing, and last year it increased to 30 million, and we're spending it back down to 28 million. So the idea is you would have a percentage, and then when you go up, you would come up with a plan to come back down to the point, and if you're below, you'll have a plan to bring it back up.
Anyone else?
And the other important thing is that the board actually approves the major expenditure classification changes. And we are doing that. It's currently our practice. We just don't have a policy that states it.
$6307, debt insurance management,
Debt issuance.
whatever.
Yeah. This
That's
is,
how we roll
I
here.
thought, whatever.
this is legally mandated if you want to incur any debt. So we would not be able to move forward with the Serafian building unless we had this in place for 30 days before we borrow. And it's saying that we have to have a procedure, which I'm working on. This is what the purpose is, the type of debt being issued in relationship to the debt, to the integration with the district's capital improvement program. So.
After AP 6307 is created, will the first sentence read the superintendent president has established?
No, it'll always stay shut.
Okay.
That makes her do it, that word.
6340, bids and contracts.
Yes, we currently have a purchasing policy with a huge, this reads like a huge AP that lumps everything together. And this is pulling out how we do bids and contracts.
The third bullet point indicates that the board shall award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. I get that there's a threshold of, you have to meet these requirements in order to meet the specifications, but there's a quality issue. Maybe there's a higher quality bidder who's not the lowest, but could better benefit the college. And in the next paragraph, when it's talking about sustainable goods and materials, there's a reference to the best value. So now the district may select and award the contract based on the best value, but that best value for long-term savings may not be the initial lowest responsible bidder. So those two might be in conflict with each other, but I'm thinking about when we were looking at firms to do our EMP and FMP before it was decided we were just gonna update the ones that we had. We would have been bound to go with the lowest responsible bidder, irrespective of the quality of the products that we saw. So I have a little issue with that.
There is a subtlety between, this is both contracts and bids. Bids are a legal process defined under government code where you have to take the lowest responsible bidder. It tends to be in the area of supplies and construction. For services, we do a request for proposals, and that's where the third bullet, or the fourth bullet comes in. The third bullet actually says, when bids are required according to Public Contract Code 20651. So it's a narrow type of purchase.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
And with a bid, we can articulate the specifications to the point where we're saying, for example, if we want a Dell computer or we want an Apple computer, we can specify the exact model and everything and then put it out to bid.
Got it. Okay, so that it's like the front end of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
6450.
Yeah, let's do 6450.
Okay, This is wireless and cellular telephone use.
Apparently we're all getting stipends for it.
The main purpose of this is so employees that are receiving a district phone will not be taxed on it. IRS code says this is a taxable benefit unless, of course, we have that is for business purposes only. And that's basically what this is.
6,500, property management?
This is to separate out the property management portion that's currently in our purchasing policy. And the main issue here is on Bonnie, we have several homes that we have managed that property. And this is to have a policy that supports that.
6520, security for district property?
It's pretty straightforward that we will secure our property, take inventories and lock doors.
6550, disposal of property.
Yes. It's to give us the policy background for an AP on how we get rid of stuff. And if you look at the Serapian building, we have a lot of stuff to get rid of.
Stuff you can give away.
Yeah.
6600
we
is
will get
capital
rid of it.
construction.
It's planning and building, so.
Any questions?
No treatment.
Not yet. Hold.
Did you do your homework?
Not like you.
I think we are now on to 6700, civic center and other facilities use.
Yes. We have a whole department that does civic center here. We wanted a policy that supports the activity and also then would support the fee structures that we charge for using different parts of this campus. And that would be contained in the AP. And also the fee structure, the law actually states there's a difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit or someone who charges a fee on the rates we're supposed to be charging for the use of the facilities. So if someone, say, wanted to rent our classrooms and charge tuition, they have to pay a certain rate as opposed to someone who was using our classrooms for a campus function or for an outside group coming in for a competition or something like that.
How do we enforce the third paragraph, the non-discrimination?
I don't know how we enforce it other than training our employees and implementing it in, it's usually a first come, first serve, with the exception the campus has priority use of our facilities over outside groups. But we are stating we do not discriminate, and if there is an issue with it, they would be able to have an appeal process.
Could that be something that shows up in the AP? Like if this is if there's an event currently occurring where discrimination is taking place, then there's a mechanism by which that will be stopped. Right? This event has been canceled henceforth. Maybe that can show up in the policy.
The administrative procedure.
Excuse me, the procedure. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I mean, at my last district, they rented significantly to religious organizations on the weekends, specifically the auditorium facilities. So,
Correct.
How do you know that they're not engaging in discriminatory practices.
Well, we have staff that are on campus while they're using it. If they notice it, then report it, and then we'll cancel it. A lot of the groups that are renting on campus, say you have a church that is renting it for their services, they tend to be open and want more people to join, as opposed to saying you can't belong. So when we have a group that says...
Is it a question of whether the activity itself is discriminatory or the organization has discriminatory policies?
Oh, like Chick-fil-A wants to sell stuff on campus?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
I mean, like a church service itself may
Yeah.
not be up there decrying one of these, one of the groups that's listed here, but if as an organization, it is in like, let's say their faith policies or whatever, or their statement of beliefs, it may not happen at that actual service that they pay for to take place on our campus, but the organization itself has discriminatory policies.
And again,
this is about the use of the property. So no group or organization may use the district property to unlawfully discriminate on the basis. It's not about the group, it's the actual use of our property.
But then maybe in the agreement, I would assume that there's an agreement that is probably signed or something when they want to make use of district property. In that, it would be, they would, in part of the agreement, we will not discriminate during this event or whatever.
So we would rent to Nazis if they wanted to have a bake sale, but not a Nazi bake sale.
That's kind of an extreme, but the answer would be.
But I mean, that's
okay.
but that,
I mean, really, I get it.
I wanted, first of all, bake sales out because of all the food stuff.
Okay.
If
They wanted to sing some songs,
correct,
but not Nazi songs.
say they wanted to play a soccer game or flag football,
Sure.
okay,
Shirts versus skinheads?
yes. The answer to that is yes. Why? The same thing that cities run into when they have neo-Nazis and Antifa coming together and they both ask for permits. It's the activity we have to judge, not the group. I would not want to encourage those groups to come to campus and rent things, but it's the policy really is of the activity of the organization, not the organization. And if we're going to start saying only certain organizations can use our campus, then we're not going to be in compliance with the Civic Center law.
And in fact, at the end of the next paragraph, it says, in granting permission to use civic centers, the district will not discriminate on the basis of viewpoint with regard to organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's even.
I'm struggling to reconcile that with the non-discrimination policy.
You can't discriminate here, but we can't discriminate who
Again.
can use the facilities.
Right.
We just focus on the activity and the use.
So I think in essence is that we technically would have to rent to anybody, but that group couldn't discriminate against anybody while they were using the facility.
Correct.
So if the Nazis came and wanted to hold a rally, they would have to let me in with my gay flag.
Yes, I think though a rally would cross the line that is discriminatory. If we'd
What if
ask
they
them
were
about
gonna-
the rally, what are they doing?
Or
What
a
are they saying?
conference, let's say they were just gonna hold a seminar, but they wouldn't be able to keep people out
But
if it was open.
say you had a white supremacy group of any time saying they want to come on campus and hold a political speaker. Or to do a signature for a voter drive. We'd be kind of stuck.
But it sounds like that's a legal, we're
Yeah.
bound legally.
Yeah,
To do
someone's
that.
telling us we have to do that.
So the last one is 6740, wow, that's a long one. Citizens Oversight Committee.
We currently have one of those, so we thought we'd have a policy that says we're going to do it. And if we go out for another bond, And if we're not doing a supermajority bond, we're doing a Prop 59 bond, which most likely would be, we would need to have an oversight, excuse me, it's Prop 39.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
any questions? So there is one more item, but I don't have a majority in the room anymore, so I'll just bring it back for next time, which is adding someone to the strategic planning committee. Are there any announcements?
Actually, yes, even though nobody's here. Well, actually, we're all here. Again, we've sent out on behalf of, two announcements as part of the MA. One is, as you see, we had 2 new members of the MA today, Dean Cobb, as well as Jeffrey Archibald, Jeff's our newest MA board member, and we'll be doing some shifting in our board just to have different roles. But also, as far as Ale goes, again, we have our Latinx Heritage Month going on throughout the rest of the month, so everybody should have gotten a series of emails, partnered for that, but I want to make sure you guys know. And even right now, we purposely didn't schedule something for this hour on this day because CAPE, which is our API Employee Association, is also hosting their own mixer. So if you can and have time, please join them, as I'm going to go to right now, in the Center for the Arts North Patio. Then we have another series of mixers going on next week. I believe on the 24th is the Black Family Reunion in Creveling, and then the 26th is the LGBTQ mixer as well in the Center for the Arts North Patio. So everybody should have gotten those emails, so please join us if you can. Awesome.
So we can adjourn at 11:58.
Yes.
Thank you very much.